Thank you so much for staying with us on UCTV. My name is Nora Sende. Today we are having a special interview with a very special guest. Now, in the wake of the passing of the Pope, that's this very month on the 21st of April 2025, the Catholic Church has entered a period of mourning and reflection. The funeral scheduled for April the 26th will be followed by the convening of the College of Cardinals, that's for the Papal Conclave. A sermon and secretive process steeped in centuries, that's the old tradition of the Catholic Church. Now today to discuss actually all these processes that are ingrained in the of a new Pope, have with us a very special guest who is His Excellency Archbishop Augustine Kasuja, who is a retired apostolic nuncio. Archbishop, Your Excellency, thank you so much for making time. You're welcome to UCTV.
Thank you so much. I also thank the Uganda Catholic Television for having taken interest in an interview on Pope Francis, who has just gone to eternal life.
Well, we're just going to dig into it. We just would like to understand from your point of view, really. Could you tell us what would you say is the most enduring legacy of the Pope's pontificate?
Pope Francis started in 2013 as a pontiff to succeed Pope Benedict XVI, who resigned. And in these 12 years that he has been a pontiff, Bishop of Rome, and the Bishop of the whole Roman Church, I think we can say, according to the encyclicals he has published, according to the discourses he has given, we can say he has been a pope who had at heart evangelization. Because you remember, among his first documents he published was Evangelii Gaudium, the joy, the proclamation of the joy of the gospel, to preach the word of God with joy. And he created also a section for new evangelization in the church, which means that he is very much interested in the dialogue, in the evangelization. But not only that, the time he died, the one who was in charge of the congregation for the evangelization of peoples was not yet called, who is Cardinal Tagle, the Filipino cardinal. He is called a pro-prefect, which means that the Pope himself considers himself as the prefect of that congregation for the evangelization of peoples, to say that he has at heart evangelization of the word and a new evangelization. But also I can say that the Pope had at heart the poor. His name, Francis, he chose it because of the poor. We remember very well that during the conclave, one of the cardinals who was his close friends told him, in case you are appointed, don't forget the poor. And he chose the name of Francis of Assisi, a man who has given a wonderful witness. Francis came from a noble family and a rich family, but he renounced everything and dedicated himself to the service of the poor and of the gospel.
Yes. When you say that he was actually are known for being a pope for the poor. I think everyone can really relate to that, especially the Catholic Church. They really witnessed the humility and how he would go down, to the people. I just want to understand a little more. How do you think his leadership shaped the Catholic Church globally and specifically here in Africa?
Well, I think his personality, being a pope coming from, we can say also a mission country, Argentina, is also, of course, I think he encouraged a lot that aspect of evangelization and question of thinking of the poorest of the poor. We remember very well that he comes from Latin America, South America, a country which had even theology of liberation, which was at a time giving priority to the poorest of the poor. But himself has taken a very theological, a very positive aspect of looking at the poor, not as making them appreciate what they are, but that we have to want to show our love to the poor, and also to work that the poorest, that those who are fortunate can share more with those who are more in need. I think he has more or less advanced that aspect, as we see also his closeness with Mother Teresa, who was a missionary of the poorest of the poor, who used to say that the superfluous belongs to the poor. So which I'm inviting one who has more to share with others, and so that we can give dignity to every man and woman.
Your Excellency, can you reflect on the Pope's relationship with the Catholic Church in Uganda? Are there any moments that really stood out?
Uganda, I would say, is fortunate because a pope who has served the church only 12 years, he had time to visit Uganda among the first churches, and it was a very nice visit when he inaugurated our big basilica of Munyonyo, where the three martyrs were killed, Andrew Kagwa, Denis Sebugwao, and Ponsion were killed in that area. But also visiting the shrines we have at Namugongo, both the Anglican shrine and the Catholic shrine where Charles Lwanga died. That encouraged very much the church in Uganda, that the Pope is very near to this church, which began with the shedding of blood of these young martyrs of Uganda. But at the same time, he encourages this church, because he did not only go to those shrines of the martyrs, but he met different people, like the youth, whom he met. I think I was not in this country here at that time, but I think he met them at Kololo. We met the youth, encouraging them to follow the example of the Ugandan martyrs, not only to admire them from outside, but also to read their history, to know their history, life history, and begin to modify, change their lives according to the example the Ugandan martyrs have given to us. And I also remember that when he was at Namugongo, he also remembered that the martyrs were not just to live in a museum, but to put their life example in our own lives to change.
Indeed, that's a very special relationship that he had with Uganda, we can see.
Yeah.
I want us to go a little bit on his pastoral approach. Kindly just elaborate a little bit more about his pastoral approach and help us understand the similarity or the difference with his predecessors.
That's always difficult to say to do, because every person is different from another. You know, he comes from a mission country, and his lifestyle was that life of simplicity. He's now, many people have called him a pontiff of the people. He was very near the people and always wanted to be near the people. That's a good, very nice pastoral approach, which we have always noticed in his life, that when he was appointed Pope, he immediately said, I will not live in the pontifical palace. I would return to the Casa Santa Marta, where even the people passing through Rome can stay. For me, when he went there, it's not, for me, whenever I used to go on holiday through Rome to the Vatican, I used to stay in that same house. So even until he died, until I retired, I always stayed in that same house. It's very nice to see. You go for breakfast and you see the Holy Father also going for his own breakfast in the same house. That means that he wanted to be always near the people. And I admired him on days like Sundays, the few days I could stay in Rome. Like Sundays, he said, after the Angelus in the St. Peter's Square, he returned in the Santa Marta, and his lunch was always with the house personnel. Thus he had it together on the same table, and then he went out. Every Sunday was his program, also to give a chance to the personnel of the house to share the lunch with the Holy Father.
I just want you to tell us a little bit about any personal experiences or personal encounters that you had there with the Pope, if any, and something that stood out for you.
Well, the Pope I have met in various occasions. By coincidence, my first appointment as secretary of their Vatican embassies, apostolic nunciatures, I worked in his mother country, Argentina. At that time, he was not yet a bishop; he was the superior of the provincial superior of the Jesuits. And I remember, and I even told him that, are you the father we visited in your house? That was my first contact with him personally. But later on, when he became Pope, he gave us many chances as apostolic nuncios, because he created what others had not created. He instituted that every 3 years the nuncios should come to Rome, past 4-5 days of sort of renewal, meeting with the Holy Father. I remember in one of these occasions of the meeting and meeting of the nuncios, we spent a full morning with the Holy Father. He gave us a conference, then he gave a chance to ask him questions and he could answer. Then the evening we had supper with him in the Vatican Gardens. Yeah, those were good occasions. But he was always, as I say, he's a man very near people. I remember one day when I was nuncio in Belgium, in Brussels, a sister takes a telephone and says, "The Pope wants to speak to you." And the sister said, "I think someone is joking. Come and take the phone." I took the phone, it was the Pope speaking. Yes. But then another time I had a communication to make to his secretary. I communicated the message. But a few minutes after, my telephone rings, and it is the Holy Father referring to that communication as I gave to his secretary. I said, "This is a person who is wonderful. He has time for everybody." Yeah. So those are a few occasions I can remember, but I can say this institution, what he instituted for approach, making also the apostolic nuncios nearer to him, and also feel that they're his representatives, I think was a very nice approach. And he still continues it, and he has seen the importance of the apostolic nuncios, because one of the last documents he has published came out, I think, during the Holy Week, the week before he died. I remember having read it for the first time on Monday of the Holy Week last week. This document refers to the diplomatic school of the Vatican, where I also studied for. But he has already proposed that this institute, which is one of the first diplomatic schools of the world, because it started in 1701 until today, more than 300 years ago. And now he says, no, we have, according to the needs of the world and of the modern society, I think institute has to be renewed and perhaps be given more courses, more possibilities of learning more languages, because the world needs more. Because he has seen how his representatives can contact here and there in the world to contribute to that brotherhood which he loves so much, and to contribute to that cause of peace in the world. So he has introduced this document, which came out, which was published during the beginning of the Holy Week. I think on Monday or Tuesday last week. Proposes even to increase the courses in the school, that diplomatic school of the Vatican, the school which will depend directly on the Secretariat of State of the Vatican. So it has been, yes. But it will even give a master's degree and a doctorate to the students who will frequent it. Yeah. To increase that possibility of, through that, the Vatican representations, diplomatic representation, to contribute perhaps more to our modern society.
Your Excellency, you have had several personal encounters with the Pope, and the death of the Pope, or the passing of the Pope, comes in a very sad way, not just Catholics, but to everyone around the world. When you look at it, to people around the world, as a leader in the church, can you help someone out there understand the whole process of the death and the church's teaching on death, life after death, in this very context?
Yes, you see the way we have followed the sickness of the Pope since he went to hospital on the 14th of February this year. He has desired to give news about his health every day. There was a transmission on the state of health of the Holy Father. He did not want to hide anything, because he said he's also a human being. He's not from heaven, he's not an angel, so he can also fall sick. But as for me, I see that he has taken his sickness with the spirit of faith, but also with the spirit of hope, as he proposes in his year of hope, that he hopes for resurrection, for a new life that continues. Because I remember he quoted in one of the introductions he made in a book of one of his friends, a cardinal scholar. He said that death is not the end. It is just a new beginning. That's what he says. So, and I think he has shown to us it's just a new beginning. And we have taken a lot of care for his doctors have taken care of him. After more than 30 days, he has come out of hospital. Was supposed to stay on convalescence, but directly from hospital Gemelli, he asked the driver to take him to St. Mary Major, where he chose to be buried. He could not get out of the car, but from the car, which stopped in front of Mary Major, St. Mary Major, he sent out the flower, told the people to put the flower on the chapel of the Our Lady of the Our Lady, where he has always gone before every visit and after every pastoral visit he made. It was more than 100 times that he has gone to that place. So I can say his concept of death was a concept of hope, not that when we die we are finished. No, there is hope for a new life, a new beginning.
There is hope for a new beginning,
Yeah.
and the Pope's burial is scheduled on the 26th. That is Saturday.
Yeah.
So many people, someone else there really wants to understand what it entails. Can you walk us through the process of the burial of the Pope, and what are some of these traditions exactly, the significance of what of this really means?
I understand every Pope has always determined the way he should be buried, he should be treated, but always we can say every Pope remains in the tradition of the Church. Yeah. Many popes have been buried in St. Peter's Basilica. More than 90 popes have been buried there, but not all of them. But when he died, he had already determined in his last will, which we published which he wrote in 2022. He had already published, but also a previous document he has determined his last days. Many things have been done already. The cardinal in charge of sede vacante, of the vacancy of the Pope, the absence of the Pope, Carmelengo, the Cardinal Carmelengo, has followed what previously all the popes have had to do, breaking off his ring, his official ring, and then sealing the apartment where he was living, so that every document that is there will be examined after when the new Pope is appointed. And then I loved the fact that since he chose to start Santa Marta, he was he laid in state in the chapel of Santa Marta, where he used to stay, to pray, to say mass almost every day. And this is the place also we others who go to St. Martha also celebrate our Mass when we go there. But he was given a chance to stay there from Monday when he died until yesterday when they transported him in solemnity, with the solemnity, to the Basilica of St. Peter, where he's now laying in state for all the public to see. But when before his translation from Santa Marta, there are just a limited number of people were there. Carmelengo, the Cardinal, I think the Cardinal, the Dean of the Cardinals, Cardinal Ray, then a few members of his family who were there were allowed to be. That was all. And then the personnel of the house who were there could venerate the body of the Pope and pray for him. But now that he's in St. Peter's, once the day comes as they have announced the program, Carmelengo and the cardinals now, as the tradition states, that as soon as a Pope dies, all the cardinals who are able to travel are invited to travel immediately to Rome. And many have already been there, at least from the very first, almost the day they transferred the body from Santa Marta to the Basilica of St. Peter. I think there were already more than 70 cardinals in Rome of the 250. Yeah, so which means that it was a very nice presence. Then now people would venerate the body, would come to pray on the body, to see the body of Pope Francis. But then, as they have established the program on Friday night at 8 o'clock in the night, the public would stop. Then they would prepare to close the body of the Pope for the funerals of the following day on Saturday the 26th, which would be done in St. Peter's Square because there is room for more people than before the Basilica of St. Mary Major. So the Pope his body would be put in the square. After the Mass or the funeral, that funeral Mass, the body would be put back again in just for tradition that he goes back to where St. Peter was died and buried, Basilica of St. Peter, and from there it will be taken almost immediately to St. Maggiore, crossing the city of Rome. It's a distance of about 5 or 6 kilometers from St. Peter's to Mary Major. I think that's also a very nice, good thing for the public to see that procession that takes the body of the Pope to his burial in St. Mary Major. And as you have all heard, that since his testament has determined that he had already personally spoken to the cardinal in charge of the Basilica of Mary Major, where exactly he wanted to be buried in the Basilica. Not exactly where that image of the Blessed Virgin Mary is, because he said, yes, I don't want to block the pilgrims who want to come to see, that picture, but in between that chapel where there is that image of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Salus Populi Romani, Mary, salvation of the Roman people, of the people of Rome. Yeah. And in the next chapel, that's where he would be buried. Then after the burial of the Pope, another chapter begins for the cardinals who are not yet 80 years old to sit in the conclave and begin their work of appointing, of electing a new Pope.
Now that you have taken us through the process of the burial of the Pope, we just want to understand, how can Catholics in Uganda, not just in Uganda but globally, prepare themselves spiritually to bury the Pope?
Well, I think normally, for me, I have lived the death of Pope Paul VI. He died when I was a student in Rome, of the diplomatic school. I witnessed the death of Pope John Paul I. I was also in Rome. I witnessed the death of John Paul II. At that time I was on mission where I think I was a nuncio in Madagascar. What I saw, how the churches in different countries react, was that usually they he's a dead person like others. He needs our prayers. They pray for him, and in all the countries where I have been, they have organized very solemn masses. In Madagascar, I remember for the birthday or the day before the burial, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Madagascar organized a very solemn mass in the stadium, the biggest stadium of the country. It rained from the beginning of the mass, and nobody moved away. There were no tents to cover us in the stadium, and nobody moved away. Even the hosts became wet. Yeah. But people prayed because they felt that he had given a life for everybody. So we can also give time to pray for him, that God can also have mercy on him in eternity. And I hope that also here in Uganda, many people will turn up for the mass that is convoked in the Cathedral of Lubaga, conducted by the representative of the Pope in Uganda.
Your Excellency, you have vast experience in diplomacy, and we'd just like to know, what is the role of the diplomatic mission at such a time like this?
The diplomatic mission of the Holy See, I would say, is very important, because the Catholic Church has got that unique privilege of sending out ambassadors to other countries, which perhaps other churches do not have. But according to the international law, the Catholic Church qualifies to do that, because we have one head of the church, who is the Pope. We have a law that governs the Catholic Church, canon law. Yeah. And we are a people. A people, many people. We are many. So the mission of the representative of the Pope, when he goes out, sent out to a country, he's an ambassador, as you have said at the beginning, accredited to that country which has accepted or made an agreement of diplomatic relations with the Holy Father, with the Holy See. So he presents credentials to work to have bilateral relations, to intensify the friendly relations between that country and the Holy See, to have communication of friendship, communication of contribution to the development of people, contribution to the world peace, and so on, but especially to world peace and friendship among people, as the Holy Father also has that priority. But to promote that world peace, and you have seen how the Holy Father dealt with the opposition leaders, rather the leaders of Southern Sudan, when they were called to Rome. Of course, when we see them in Rome, the nuncio must have done his work locally. Yes, to let them go. For sure, because he's there on the spot. He can approach them very easily. He has the credentials to say that he's not a foreigner, but he is there officially representing the Holy Father, so that he can very easily approach all those heads of state to create that channel of creating world peace and speaking on problems that can concern the whole society. That's one aspect. But also an apostolic nuncio, or the representative of the Holy Father, has the work with the local church where he is sent, and he goes with the letter not signed to the head of state. He gives the credentials which are signed by the Pope himself, addressed to the head of state. But to the bishops, he has every nuncio goes with the letter signed by the Secretary of State, addressed to the President of the Catholic Bishops' Conference, and he presents that letter at the beginning of his mission. As soon as he arrives to the country, he finds out on occasion to present that letter to the Catholic Bishops' Conference, and he begins his work. This work is to be a mediator between the local church and the church in Rome and the Holy Father. And as a mediator, the church has any problems to communicate to Rome, the representative of the Pope is there. If Rome has any question to send to this country, to this church, it is usually through the nuncio himself, to be sure that it is authentic. But not only that, we also hear that the Holy Father appoints bishops all over the church. This work of appointing bishops, according to canon law, is conducted by the representative of the Pope, because he does it on behalf of the Pope himself. So he's the one, in collaboration with the bishops of the place and other people, of course, consultation of other people even, that he finds candidates, three or even more, sends them to Rome, and then the Holy Father, of those three, he can appoint a bishop for the different churches. And I think this Pope, who has recently died, has appointed various bishops here in Uganda. I think even recently we had one of Nebi, who has been installed recently. The papal transition, once the Pope dies, nobody assumes his post. No, he's not there. It's a sede vacante. Sede vacante is an Italian word, means the see is vacant. The see is vacant. So the Carmelengo is the position for organizing the congregations of the cardinals to meet together. And they have already started. Already, the first meeting was held on before yesterday. Before yesterday morning, they had a first meeting to decide on how to organize the program of this week. Then but yesterday morning they were taking the body to the Basilica of St. Peter. They had to pray for the Pope. It's a rather long prayer with the litany of saints, and then the congregation continues the meetings in the afternoon. Yesterday afternoon they also met again to arrange for the ceremony of the funeral, of the Pope, because they have to, since the Pope is also head of state, he's head of the Catholic Church, but he's also head of state as head of the Vatican. There are two things to distinguish: Holy See and the Vatican state. So that many heads of states are going to come. The list is long. I don't have the list here myself, but I know the list will be long. with John Paul II, I think there were more than 200 delegations from the different countries. So they have to organize that. And this Carmelengo and the Dean of Cardinals are in that aspect, doing that work of doing that. But I must also note that normally, after the Pope, there is a Secretary of State. But when the Pope dies, the Secretary of State is no longer Secretary of State. And you have seen that these last days, Cardinal Parolin, who was the Secretary of State, is not figuring out as giving any direction of it. But of course, he has been Secretary of State, but now he's no longer Secretary of State until if the next Pope wants to confirm him, that's another thing. But now the ones who act during the sede vacante, the vacancy is the Carmelengo and the Dean of Cardinals.
Your Excellency, is there a special way Africa is mourning the Holy?
A special way to say that Africa is a continent. I think that's what I said before. I think that every local church in its organizes itself. In certain countries, I'm sure they organize a mass. Some cardinals have traveled to Rome to participate because the cardinal of Congo, who is the president of the Amesea for the not Amesea of the Bishops' Conference of Africa, he has already traveled to Rome and he's there already. But countries like Uganda has no cardinal who is able to travel to Rome. Nobody we have nobody who has gone there, but it does not matter. Churches organize themselves, all in particular dioceses. As here we shall have a mass here on Friday. I think it's organized by the Catholic Bishops' Conference, presided over by Apostolic Nuncio Luigi Bianco. But I hear that in Masaka, Bishop of Masaka has organized the mass for today. I think tomorrow. Today is Thursday. Today, and so on. Other dioceses will organize, and so it goes on like that in African countries to pray for the eternal rest of the Holy Father. I wouldn't expect anything different from what other countries do. yeah. Even other countries in Europe do the same. They organize a solemn mass to pray for the Holy Father.
Your Excellency, you could just give us your final remarks in regards to the Pope's death and burial in relation to what the Catholics, especially in Uganda, should actually anticipate and hope for.
My final remarks. Yeah, I think a country that has been visited by Pope Francis, we should remember we are touched more than perhaps the countries that have not been visited before, because we have many people have come to familiarize, to touch him, to be blessed. They know that he has been here, he has been there in our country. But my final remark is that we pray for the Pope. But I think one of the best prayers we can make for the Holy Father is not just Our Father, Hail Mary, but I think he has said many things, good things. He has given a very good teaching as regards brotherhood. He wrote a book on universal brotherhood, to loving one another. He is admired for dialogue among men, interreligious dialogue. ecumenism. He has been a lover of the poor and always advocating that sharing among the rich and the poor so that we can bridge that gap. So I think a prayer for the Pope and an homage to the Pope is also to have a change of heart, to put these words of the Holy, this teaching of the Holy Father in our lives. He has been an advocate of the protection of the environment, especially for countries like Uganda and many African countries, a protection of the nature. We have a problem here in Uganda, people trying to destroy swampy areas, to destroy forests. If we honor the Holy Father, I think his appeal to protect nature, I think is there. Yeah. We show that we honor, we understand him, we have listened to him, and what he says is serious for our good, not for him. He is dead, but it's for our good who remain here. So I think my last appeal is that let us honor the Holy Father and have a change. Respect more our nature, love one another to create peace among ourselves, and also to give a witness of the gospel, the values of the gospel more in our society.
Very remarkable words there. Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
You're welcome.
It has been nice really talking to you and digging into the details of the passing of the Holy Father Pope Francis. Well, it has been nice having you on this very special interview as His Excellency the Archbishop Augustine Kasuja was digging into all the discussions and just giving us insights of what this exactly means, the significance of the traditions of the Church. And as we await the burial of the Pope, we hope that we shall still live the teachings of the Holy Father, especially the teachings on Laudato Si, protecting the environment, and so much more. In that way, we shall be living his legacy, the legacy that he has left behind. It has been nice having you. My name is Nora Sende. Till next time, God bless. Stay well.
Thank you.